Across every continent on Earth, wildlife moves according to the rhythm of vast migrations and silent struggles that determine which creatures will endure. These are not gentle journeys or predictable routes. They are demanding passages shaped by hunger, thirst, fatigue, and the ever-present shadow of danger. Entire herds travel for weeks, sometimes for months, guided by an ancient instinct carried through generations. They follow distant storms, fresh grasslands, and fragile water sources that can disappear without warning. Yet this story is not only about those who travel. The perspective shifts. The world is seen through the eyes of the predators, the silent watchers hidden in shadow. The hunters that judge distance with precision, read the wind with patience, and wait for the exact moment when weakness appears. For them, the movement of migration is not simply a spectacle of nature. It is a crucial chance to survive. Every river crossing can become a deadly challenge. Every open plain may transform into a hunting ground. While some animals move forward driven by the hope of survival, others depend on that same movement to avoid starvation. Their destinies become tightly connected in a balance as ancient as the wilderness itself. In the wild, migration is a constant struggle. And when these great journeys are viewed through the perspective of the hunter, a deeper truth of the natural world is revealed. In nature, one life often continues only because another has come to an end. At the edge of East Africa, where the savanna stretches almost endlessly toward the horizon, the land itself seems to move. The motion is anything but quiet. A constant thunder of hooves, drifting dust, and vast herds rolling forward fills the landscape. Here, migration does not follow narrow paths. It unfolds like a living tide sweeping across the plains. This is the largest land migration of mammals on Earth. Each year, more than 1 million wildebeest travel alongside hundreds of thousands of zebras and gazelles, covering roughly 800 to 1,000 kilometers in a nearly predictable cycle between the Serengeti Plains and the grasslands of the Masai Mara. The purpose is simple and unavoidable: fresh water and new grass. Yet the simplicity of the goal contrasts sharply with the harshness of the journey. Wildebeest do not follow a fixed road. Their route shifts with rainfall, wind patterns, and the changing condition of the land. The enormous herd behaves almost like a single living organism capable of reshaping the environment as it passes. Grasslands are grazed down. The soil becomes enriched with nutrients, and weeks later, the savanna grows back with renewed strength. The scale of the movement is so vast that it can even be seen from space. For months, the plains resemble a dark, pulsing carpet that never seems to rest. The ground trembles, the air thickens with dust, and every stride carries risk. Because this migration is not simply a march toward abundance, it is a chain of dangerous moments. Among all the challenges along the route, none is more decisive than the rivers. When the herd encounters a barrier of water, the forward surge slows and compresses. Thousands gather along the banks, pushing, hesitating, retreating, and advancing again. Fear spreads through the crowd like a wave, yet the pressure of animals behind allows no pause. Eventually, one leaps into the river, and within seconds, the rest follow. What was once a calm channel becomes a chaotic surge. Bodies collide, the current sweeps away the weaker animals, and many lose their footing within the first few meters. The crossing has no clear order. It becomes a powerful overflow of motion and confusion, and within that disorder, another ancient presence reveals itself. Beneath the dark surface of these African rivers live predators that do not need to chase the herds across the plains. They simply wait. Nile crocodiles are among the oldest hunters still ruling the planet. With slow metabolisms, remarkable patience, and a keen ability to read their surroundings, they have long learned that the wildebeest migration is a recurring event, predictable, concentrated, and unavoidable. For much of the year, the river offers few opportunities, but when the crossing season begins, the balance shifts dramatically. Within days, scarcity turns into sudden abundance. A crocodile does not pursue the fastest animal or challenge the strongest. Instead, it takes advantage of confusion, crowded water, and a single moment of miscalculation. The murky river limits vision, the force of the herd disrupts balance, and one slip can determine the fate of an animal weighing more than 200 kilograms. Yet the migration never stops. For every individual that falls, many others reach the opposite bank. The strategy is not to remove danger, but to spread the risk. The power of the migration lies in its sheer numbers, its persistence, and its unbroken momentum. Those that fail to cross do not disappear without purpose. Their bodies become food for crocodiles, fish, and birds, and they also nourish the river itself. Minerals and organic matter drift downstream for many kilometers, feeding life far beyond the original herd. As long as rains continue to renew the grass and rivers continue to interrupt the path, this cycle will repeat year after year, transforming movement into survival, and every crossing into an opportunity for those who know how to wait. When the great river crossings of the wildebeest finally subside, the landscape does not fall silent at once. The rivers gradually return to their calm flow. The dust settles over the plains, and the herd continues its long journey. Yet the passage leaves behind a scattered trace across the savanna, still bodies of animals that failed to overcome the current, collapsed from exhaustion, or simply lacked the strength to keep moving. At that moment, another kind of movement begins. Long before any scent can be detected from the ground, small dark shapes appear high in the sky. At first they seem insignificant, barely visible against the vast blue, but within minutes their numbers grow, circling slowly and drawing tighter loops above the plains. To a distant observer, it may look like coincidence. For vultures, it is precise information. These birds are specialists at locating death across enormous distances. Some species can detect a carcass from many kilometers away thanks to remarkably sharp eyesight and an ability to read the behavior of other birds already in flight. The descent of a single vulture often triggers a chain reaction, guiding dozens more toward the same place. During the Great Migrations, these gatherings can become extraordinary in scale. Around the body of a single wildebeest or antelope, dozens. Sometimes hundreds of vultures may assemble, forming a restless mass that constantly shifts and reorganizes. What appears chaotic is actually governed by a clear hierarchy. Larger species claim access first, while smaller ones wait at the edges, ready to slip into any opening that appears. The transformation happens with astonishing speed. A carcass that might normally take days to decay can be reduced to clean bones in less than half an hour. Muscles, organs, and soft tissue vanish almost entirely. Nothing is wasted, yet their role extends far beyond feeding. Vultures serve as the sanitation system of the savanna. By rapidly removing large amounts of decaying organic matter, they help prevent the spread of harmful bacteria, reduce potential sources of infection, and limit diseases that could threaten wildlife and even nearby human communities. Research in several regions has shown that when vulture populations decline sharply, diseases linked to unconsumed animal remains increase noticeably. At the same time, opportunistic scavengers far less efficient at nature's cleanup often expand in number. During the migrations, vultures do not follow the herds themselves. Instead, they follow the consequences. Where massive herds move, mistakes happen. Where mistakes occur, death appears. And where death gathers, vultures arrive. Their presence also sends signals across the landscape. Ground predators learn to scan the sky, and human herders do the same. A spiral of circling birds overhead often means that something has ended below. But within the logic of the natural world, it is not truly an ending. It is a transformation. Every consumed body returns nutrients to the soil. Calcium from bones, microscopic remnants, and fluids that seep into the ground all enrich the earth. Within weeks, the place where an animal fell may become a patch of greener, thicker vegetation, a future feeding ground for the next wave of travelers. In this way, vultures complete a cycle that began months earlier, when the first rains awakened the grasslands. They do not chase prey or defend vast territories. Instead, they wait patiently for the inevitable cost of migration and transform that ending into the beginning of new life. In Africa, great migrations unfold under scorching heat, swirling dust, and murky rivers. At the opposite end of the planet, however, movement is governed by a completely different force, cold. Across the vast Arctic and subarctic regions where the landscape appears frozen in time for much of the year, life also travels great distances. But here, the motion is not loud or chaotic. It is quiet, steady, and relentless. Caribou undertake some of the longest land migrations on Earth, with annual routes that can exceed 5,000 kilometers. Their journey crosses open tundra, boreal forests, frozen rivers, and windswept plains. Often there are no clear trails or landmarks to follow. Temperatures can plunge far below -40 degrees, turning the environment itself into a constant challenge. The drive behind this movement is not only the search for food, but the need to align their life cycle with an ecosystem that can change dramatically within a matter of weeks. During the brief Arctic summer, the herds move northward toward areas where vegetation bursts into growth under the nearly endless daylight. Insects may swarm in great numbers, but they pose a lesser threat than the scarcity of food elsewhere. It is here that calves are born, with most arrivals occurring within a remarkably short window of time. This synchronization is no accident. By giving birth almost simultaneously, the herd spreads the risk. Predators are present, but when thousands of calves enter the world at once, it becomes impossible to pursue them all. As winter begins to reclaim the land, the direction of travel reverses. The herds gradually head south in search of places where strong winds sweep the snow aside, revealing the lichens hidden beneath the frozen surface. These modest organisms, which offer little nutrition for most plant-eating animals, form the foundation of the caribou's winter diet and remain one of the few reliable resources during months of near-continuous darkness. Physically, the caribou is remarkably suited to life on the move. Its broad hooves function like natural snowshoes, spreading weight across soft snow in winter. During the warmer months, those same hooves harden, allowing easier travel over rocky ground. A coat made of hollow hairs traps heat efficiently, and the animal's metabolism can slow to conserve energy when food becomes scarce. Even with these advantages, the migration demands a heavy toll. Sudden blizzards early thaws rivers, breaking open ahead of schedule or thick ice. Sealing food beneath the ground can transform a familiar route into a harsh test of endurance. In some years, the most serious losses are not caused by hunters but by the climate itself. Predators, when they appear, usually remain along the edges of the herd, watching for the injured, the young, or those that fall behind. Yet unlike many other migrations, the greatest threat here does not come with teeth or claws. It arrives from the sky, carried on the wind and measured in dropping temperature. The migration of the caribou is not defined by dramatic chases or constant attacks. Instead, it is a prolonged trial of resilience. It exists because the Arctic does not allow stillness. To remain in one place is to risk disappearing. Moving forward despite cold storms and uncertainty is the only path that offers a chance to survive. Along the edges of the Arctic, where the ocean presses against shifting sheets of sea ice, migration takes on a very different form. It does not unfold across endless routes or sweep through vast plains. Instead, movement becomes compressed and concentrated. Walruses travel seasonally with the advance and retreat of the sea ice, which serves as a floating platform where they can rest between long feeding sessions on the ocean floor. There they spend hours stirring the sediment with their whiskered snouts, searching for clams and other shellfish hidden in the mud. When the ice retreats too far or disappears entirely, these animals are forced to find alternatives. That is when massive gatherings begin along the coastline. In certain parts of the Arctic, tens of thousands of walruses crowd onto narrow beaches or rocky shores. Space becomes scarce, yet the need for rest is shared by all. Bodies weighing more than a ton press tightly together, forming immense living walls of thick skin-curved tusks and heavy layers of insulating fat. From a distance, such gatherings might appear peaceful, almost like a sanctuary. In reality, they represent a delicate balance. Walruses are highly social animals, and staying close together helps conserve warmth while offering a sense of safety. But that closeness also creates risk. A sudden movement can trigger a chain reaction of shoving bodies, and under such immense weight, the pressure can become overwhelming. Each shift within this crowd leaves visible marks on the shoreline. Sand becomes mixed with traces of dried blood, deep grooves carved by tusks and scars from earlier conflicts. The soundscape never truly fades. Deep grunts, the collision of heavy bodies, slow breathing, and the constant scraping of giants trying to share an area far too small. This migration is not measured by the distance traveled, but by the intensity of the gathering. Here, the challenge is not reaching the next destination, but simply finding a place to stop without being crushed by the mass around them. Where such a concentration of prey exists, watchful eyes are never far away. Polar bears patrol these gatherings with quiet persistence. Unlike their usual hunts for seals on the sea ice, they rely less on stealth here. Instead, they walk, observe, and study the crowd. Among thousands of similar shapes, their focus settles on subtle signs: a calf drifting away from the group, an exhausted individual, or a walrus poorly positioned near the edge. Often, the bear does not need to create chaos. The environment provides it. A sudden noise, an awkward shift in the herd, or a ripple of panic moving through the tightly packed mass can briefly open space. In those fleeting moments, the predator advances, sometimes threading through narrow gaps between enormous bodies that are themselves powerful and potentially dangerous. Even so, most walruses survive these encounters. The strength of the species lies not in speed or individual aggression, but in sheer numbers. Healthy adults form a nearly impenetrable barrier. Their long tusks tools for hauling themselves onto ice and also formidable defensive weapons create a zone of caution that even a predator as powerful as a polar bear must approach carefully. Once again, the migratory phenomenon does not collapse under the pressure of predators. Instead, it adapts. The crowd absorbs its losses and continues demonstrating that in these extreme environments, survival depends not only on individual strength, but on the collective ability to endure and reorganize. At the far reaches of the Southern Ocean, where relentless winds sweep across frozen waters and the cold shows little mercy, migration reveals yet another remarkable form. Here, the movement of life is not defined by long marches across plains or dramatic river crossings. Instead, it gathers in overwhelming numbers. On certain sub-Antarctic islands, entire shorelines cease to look like empty landscapes and begin to resemble living, breathing ecosystems. The bright white of snow disappears beneath vast layers of black silver and golden feathers. The ground becomes hidden beneath thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of king penguins packed together in dense colonies. From a distance, the shoreline seems to pulse with life. These gatherings are far more than temporary assemblies. They represent the center of a demanding and carefully timed migratory cycle that unfolds slowly over many months. Unlike most birds, the king penguin does not complete its breeding cycle within a single season. Instead, reproduction may stretch beyond an entire year. This unusual rhythm forces adults to travel repeatedly between the open ocean and the breeding colony. While one parent remains on land, carefully balancing the egg on its feet, beneath a protective fold of skin, the other heads out to sea, sometimes traveling hundreds of kilometers in search of food. These constant journeys create invisible highways through the surrounding ocean. Beneath the surface, king penguins dive to remarkable depths, often reaching more than 300 meters, where sunlight fades into darkness. Their bodies are built for such extreme conditions. Dense bones help reduce buoyancy. Their wings function as powerful flippers and their blood carries oxygen with exceptional efficiency. Even their heart rate can slow during deep dives, allowing them to remain underwater for extended periods. Yet every trip into the ocean carries danger. When an adult returns, it brings enough nourishment to sustain its chick for several days. But before reaching the relative safety of the colony, it must cross the most exposed stretch of the journey, the narrow and uncertain boundary where ocean ice and land meet. In this shifting zone, protection disappears, and a single miscalculation can change the outcome of the entire voyage. Few natural events are as extraordinary as the migratory journey of salmon. Their story does not begin solely in rivers nor end entirely in the ocean. It begins with memory, a chemical imprint formed during the earliest stage of life when a tiny larva drifts through calm, freshwater streams. As the fish matures, this imprint becomes an internal guide, an invisible compass that leads it across vast stretches of open ocean and eventually directs it back with remarkable precision to the very river where it first began life. Some species travel more than 6,000 kilometers through the sea before starting their return. During these years in the ocean, salmon grow larger, stronger, and accumulate the energy reserves they will later depend on. Yet the most demanding challenge still lies ahead. When the instinct to reproduce becomes impossible to ignore, they leave the salt water behind and enter one of the most difficult migrations in the animal kingdom. Even the transition from saltwater to freshwater places enormous strain on the body. Within days, their internal systems must completely readjust. Organs adapt, their skin darkens, jaws reshape, and muscles reorganize, all while they push upstream against currents seemingly designed to block their passage. From that moment onward, they stop feeding. Every kilometer of progress consumes energy stored during years at sea. Each leap over waterfalls, each collision with rocks, and every effort to navigate obstacles drains reserves that will never be replenished. In many rivers, more than 70% of the fish never reach the spawning grounds. Yet the collective movement continues without pause. The migration rarely happens in isolation. Thousands, sometimes millions of salmon move upstream together through narrow channels, transforming the river into a restless living current. The water churns with motion, the flow becomes turbulent, and the riverbed vanishes beneath the density of bodies. This sudden concentration of life reshapes the environment itself. Rivers once poor in nutrients become centers of fertility. Nitrogen and phosphorus carried from the ocean nourish algae, insects, birds, and even the forests growing along the banks. The influence can extend far beyond the water's edge. Trees growing at considerable distances from the river may reach greater heights thanks to nutrients released as fish decompose along the ecosystem. Scientists have found chemical traces of this ocean-derived nourishment in soil many years after the migration has passed. Yet wherever life gathers in such abundance, it inevitably draws attention from opportunistic hunters. In certain stretches of the river, the terrain naturally narrows, shallow passages, tight rapids, and unavoidable waterfalls where the effort of the salmon becomes predictable. It is in these places that another strategy appears, that of the brown bear. Unlike predators that rely on long chases or carefully planned ambushes, bears often take advantage of something far simpler: reliable abundance. Over thousands of years, entire bear populations have synchronized their movements with the seasonal arrival of salmon. For them, this event is not occasional. It is a crucial part of their yearly survival. During the peak of the salmon run, a single bear may consume dozens of kilograms of fish in one day. This rich supply of protein and fat fuels daily activity and, more importantly, allows the bear to build the energy reserves needed to endure the long winter when hibernation slows its metabolism dramatically. Their behavior along the rivers is far from random. Bears prefer shallow water, natural waterfalls, and slower stretches where salmon must repeatedly leap upstream. By the time the fish reach these points, many are exhausted. Their reactions slowed after a relentless struggle against the current. With measured movements, the bear takes advantage of this moment, capturing fish that have nearly spent the energy accumulated during their entire life at sea. This relationship goes far beyond a simple interaction between predator and prey. It forms an essential link within the ecosystem. After feeding, bears often carry portions of their catch into nearby forests, leaving scattered remains across the ground. These fragments gradually become natural fertilizer, enriching plants, insects, and microorganisms far from the river itself. Scientific studies have even discovered traces of ocean-derived nutrients within the tissues of centuries-old trees growing deep in the forest. Evidence of generations of bears transporting marine energy onto land. In this way, the bear becomes more than a hunter. It acts as a powerful distributor of life's resources, carrying the richness of the ocean into the heart of the terrestrial world. When the paths of migration fade into the distance and the echoes of pursuit disappear into silence, one truth remains clear: wildlife exists in a balance sustained by struggle. Every movement of the herd and every careful calculation of a predator adds another chapter to an ancient story, one in which survival demands endurance, patience, and at times sacrifice. Seen through the perspective of the hunter, migration becomes more than simple movement across landscapes. It becomes destiny. For some animals, the journey offers hope and renewal. For others, it represents the single opportunity to remain alive. In this way, predator and prey are bound together by the same invisible thread that keeps the natural world in motion. Across the planet's most demanding environments, from scorching plains to rushing rivers and frozen mountains, the same truth persists. No victory lasts forever, and no loss marks the true end as long as life continues to move forward. In the wild, struggle is not a choice. It is simply the way life continues to exist. If this journey into the heart of the wild inspired you, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Join us on Beast Call Nature, where every heartbeat, every watchful gaze, and every encounter reveals another layer of the natural world.